Hello, welcome everybody. Here we are. We're recording and broadcasting from Huddle Share Space, Shiva, Huddle Share Space. And it's nice to be out in public among friends, among clients, business associates. I'm here with Margaret. We got my good friend and business partner, Shiva, Lorraine over there hiding behind one of the cameras. We actually have a camera crew here because Margaret's brother-in-law Takor said, let's up the game. So we've got a camera crew, and well, we're just happy to be out, be able to see our friends face to face, and great to see all of you joining us online. And I don't know what it would take now to get people to come out to an event, because I did announce.
David,
Yes,
I have a question.
already.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Already. This
Okay, go
meeting,
ahead.
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock. The meeting
is,
started.
unfortunately, for some people, an inconvenient time. I know. This webinar is being recorded, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
And will it be possible to watch it on
Yeah,
after?
it's gonna be on YouTube, so people can watch it later.
Okay.
Okay?
I will have to excuse myself.
Okay. If you have questions, you can post them.
And if it's okay with you, I may join again in 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah, do what you got to do, Giuseppe. Absolutely. And
Hi there.
welcome. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Yeah.
Sorry, if that's okay, then I will keep an eye out on YouTube for this as well, because it would be probably better timing for me to do it.
You do what you got to do,
Okay.
Ellie. And if anybody wants to post questions at any point, you can do so in the chat.
Okay.
If you have questions. So let me tell you what's the topic today. Otherwise, for now, I would ask you guys to please mute yourselves. Thank you very much. And so we're going to have a discussion with Margaret Curlew. Margaret and her husband, Bill, have been investing in real estate. They have accumulated over a dozen properties. And Margaret's going to talk about how she did it, how her and Bill did what they've done, how they grew their portfolio, what were some of the challenges, how did they overcome these challenges, where they look for properties, how to add value to properties, how to increase the rents, and how to manage the properties, how to deal with tenants, because she does all her own property management. We also have with us on today's call a lawyer by the name of Jordan Green. There was another lawyer that we were going to have, and he advised that fairly short notice that he could not make it. But I'm really glad anyway how it worked out, because you know what? We've been working with Jordan recently on a number of transactions, and he's a really great guy, and he knows his stuff. He's been very, very good to work with. He's licensed in both Canada and the US. Top of his class, magna cum laude. Is that an American terminology, Jordan? Magna cum laude, did they say that in Canada?
It's Latin, but the Americans seem to be much more big on the honors and on your class ranking. So in Canada, it'd be faux pas to tell people where you finished. In America, that's almost the first question they ask you.
Well, faux pas is my middle name. So great to have you with us, Jordan. So if anybody has questions for Jordan also, then by all means. But our main objective is to understand how Margaret and her husband Bill have done what they've done, and also we would like to help Margaret to take her business to the next level. We've overcome a lot of challenges, some challenges with respect to financing, and we have some ideas that pertain to joint ventures on how to take it further, which could involve people from the audience who are watching this, if they might want to joint venture. And we want to also, a little bit later on in the hour, get some ideas from Jordan on joint ventures, what things to watch out for in order to ensure that it's going to be successful joint venture. So that's the objective. So Margaret, welcome.
Thank you, David.
Great to have you here. So tell us, what's the story? I mean, I know you've been working for a while. You still have a regular job in addition to managing and growing your portfolio. But at some point, you and your husband looked at each other and said, you know, we've got to do something to step outside the mold. We don't want to be working till we're 110 years old. So what's the story? How did it go?
Oh, well, David, thanks very much for having me here, and thanks everybody for coming. I'm really excited to be here and to talk about real estate. It is a very exciting place to be. Actually, as you can see, I have one of those fancy degrees, and you would expect me to be in a big, nice, comfortable office making six figures. Well, that didn't happen. And we both had decent jobs, and the income was very comfortable, but we just thought there could be a better way because we saved like crazy. We had RSP accounts, savings accounts, and of course they were just growing like very slowly. And we took one look at our investment portfolio, and we just thought, at this rate, pretty much we're going to work until we are 80, die, come back, and then work before we can retire. And so we started exploring other options, other investment options like the stock market and all that. And we decided to just settle for real estate. Well, for several reasons, we just thought, okay, with real estate, at least it's a little bit safer than the stock market. If we, for example, if we were to wake up in the middle of the night because we're just scared about what's going on, we can jump into our car, at least drive past the property and say, hey, there it is. Our investment is still intact. So that's one of the main reasons we went into real estate. It wasn't easy, but then when we looked at the trajectory and we looked at what could be the end results, what could be the outcome, we just thought, okay, we think this is the best route to go. And it was like, for example, our savings, we had a little bit, we thought it was a lot of money, but actually it was seems much, probably around 50 grand in retirement. We have been saving for years, and we had about 33K somewhere around there. And then we just thought, but how can we achieve financial independence? How can we just work and retire before age 55? And how can we even create generational wealth? So then we decided to start looking at properties. Well,
Can I stop you for a second?
Yeah, sure.
So first of all, I didn't neglect to mention that you are a PhD. Can you just tell us, where did you get your PhD?
Actually, I studied in 2 countries. So I studied in France. That's where I got my first degree and my master's degree.
Right.
And then came to Canada, and I also did my PhD in the United States.
So you have a double PhD, and you also studied in 2 different countries.
2
outside of
different
Canada.
countries, exactly.
Interesting.
So I speak French
And
fluently.
what did you study?
Okay, so in France and Europe back then, there was the European Union was a little bit different. It's not the way it is today, where pretty much is one border. So I did international trade. So pretty much because it was very popular, because each country had its own border, and then they had to do trade and businesses with each other. It's not like now where pretty much everything is one. So it was pretty much a good market, a very good field to get into. So I did my PhD in my master's degree in international commerce. And then later on, when my mom was just, you got to do your PhD, do a PhD in something. I need you to just go continue in academia. And finally, I opted to do a PhD in business.
Okay, so
And
you
so
have a
since-
PhD in business and a PhD in international trade.
Oh, no, a master's degree.
A
in
master's,
international-
okay, so you're very well educated. Okay,
Exactly.
excellent. So, and then you talk about generational wealth.
Exactly.
What does that mean to you? Why is that important?
Oh, it's very important. Like, okay, for example, take someone like Paris Hilton. Some people don't like her, but I love her. Like, she's not responsible for being wealthy. And I was reading an article where they said when Paris Hilton was born, the minute she took her first breath, she was worth over 300 million US dollars. Well, she didn't even do anything, but because her great grandparents were very smart, of course, in real estate and hotels and all that. And she was born and she was richer than most of the people on earth. And I just thought probably I wouldn't be able to do the same as Conrad Hilton, but I can do something where I can create a comfortable lifestyle for myself and be able to pass it on to my kids, like pretty much create a legacy,
Right,
pass something on to my kids so that we can have a head start in life. And
okay,
I'm thinking with a job, you're not able to do that. The minute you leave the company, that's it. All your investments, your job, your time and everything you put into it, that's it. But pretty much a business, especially a business like real estate, it's a legacy you're creating and pretty much contributing to society as well.
okay, so right now you have over a dozen properties, you and your husband have accumulated, and how long have you been real estate investing?
Oh, we've been like since 2014.
Okay,
Very nervous initially, but now we're very proud and happy we took the first step. Maybe we should have been a little bit more aggressive and active when we started, but we were very nervous.
right, well, I guess you had to learn, right?
Exactly,
You had
yes,
to learn, because there's a lot to deal with.
that's correct.
Okay, so tell us a bit more about the journey. Where do you like to invest? What do you look for in a real estate investment?
Oh yeah, right now it's very easy to explain that. Well, initially, I live in the Greater Toronto area, so my very first thought was to look for something around me, something in my backyard. So I was looking in Toronto, like I went to a bank to get a pre-approval, and the bank pre-approved me for something. I think back then they pre-approved me for $250,000, and they said, well, it's just a formality. You're not going to be able to find anything around you. So forget about investing in real estate. That's what the bank. I went to my local plaza and pretty much went around to like 4 different banks. But then I thought, yeah, I was looking around the GTA and I just couldn't find anything. So I just thought, okay, I'll just keep pushing the boundary. Just
Mhm.
keep, because I wanted to find something, but then I wanted to find cash flowing properties.
Right,
So I started pushing the boundaries and say, how far can I drive? So instead of just looking at Toronto, I started looking at Oshawa on the east side, and I was looking at Hamilton on the west side, Hamilton, St. Catharines, Niagara. And Oshawa, I even pushed it to Bowmanville, pushed it to Peterborough and Lindsay. And so I started analyzing these markets. And at that point in time, then I found a sweet spot on the in the west end, like a sweet spot like Hamilton, Niagara area, and that's why I went and got my first couple of rental properties.
right, okay, so now you like a lot of the properties that you own are in the Hamilton area. Are they all in the Hamilton area, or?
No, not all of them. I've got most of them, quite a lot in Hamilton, but I also have a few in Oshawa. I even have 3 in Windsor, Ontario.
Okay,
I
right,
went to Windsor, Ontario, but one thing I realized when you're doing something, especially when you just start, it's best to get something, a property where you can drive. So
right,
in case there is something, probably when you get bigger and you're able to hire property managers, maybe you're a bigger company, then you can get something that 4, 6, 8 hours away. But it's best for you to get something that's within, if even it's 2 hours driving distance, but in case something goes wrong with contractors, tenants, or something, you can drive there.
right. So are you doing all of your own property management?
Right now, everything is being done in-house, which is great. And I was able to get to this point with experience. When I just started, first property, second property, we used a few property management companies. I want to say I really didn't, I'm not saying all companies are like that, but I pretty much didn't see my money, my rents, and if even I did see something, it was half rent, and I was thinking, but how is this happening? How can I increase my portfolio, because I needed that cash flow to be able to reinvest. And luckily, my brother Tekor, I brought him on board. He became my property manager. And he's a contractor. He is very handy, and he knows plumbing, electrical, like just stuff. Sometimes we have to call like a licensed electrician to come on board. And I noticed once we started doing the property management part of the business inside, in-house, things just grew, I would say, exponentially, because there are a lot of places where we were able to save money. And when I went to look at a property, sometimes I would take him along with me and say, okay, what do you think?
Right,
Because my goal, my strategy was to buy a something and add value to it. Like buy a house, depending on the layout and the square footage, add value to it, meaning convert it into 2 units or 3 units or even 4 units if possible. So I would take him along with me. He would look at it right there and then and pretty much give me a rough estimate as to how much it would cost for him to do the conversion and all that. And then you just look at the area quickly and do just rough calculations, say, okay, each unit would be rented for this amount of money. And then just do our calculations and say, okay, then this is what we're going to offer for this property. And then, well, of course, I would come home and then punch in the numbers on my spreadsheet. But having someone who knows the handy part of the business, because I am very good with the financial part, but having him just helped me grow my business faster and in a more efficient way. So I got most of my properties once he was on board with me and doing the repairs, maintenance, and property management.
Okay, so most of the growth took place in the last few years, would you say? Since you have Takor, who's a strong in terms of dealing with renovations and improvements. He could go in, take a look and see how to cost effectively.
Exactly.
So you'd look at, now, do you buy duplexes? I think you have some duplexes in your portfolio.
Yes, I've got some that I bought as a duplex and they needed work. But then half of the others that we have now, well, my portfolio, we were able to go in and convert those properties into 2 units and 3 units. And he was very instrumental in that. He came on board in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 2018. He came on board in 2018, and most of my properties, I got them after 2018. So that was very, very, very good.
Right, okay, and you've seen a lot of growth undoubtedly. Well, anyone has who's been holding real estate in the last
Well, that's what I'm thinking.
year. right?
Probably back then, I should have bought a whole street and maybe a whole area or neighborhood, but it's never too late. Pretty much what I did in the past, I can just repeat it. Now it's a little bit more challenging because prices have soared. Like the houses, some of the ones I got, even 3-4 years ago, they've doubled in value, which is great for me and to grow the business. But it's just that now we've got to be a little bit more creative finding these cash flowing properties and ones that we can add value onto, so that probably in a year we can refinance and just take the money and invest it and keep growing and scaling up.
Right, so refinancing is an important part of your strategy.
Correct.
So at what point do you refinance? Like typically, how long do you need to own a property, would you say, before you can refinance it?
Well, initially when I just started, it was like 2 years later, that's when I refinanced. Now, knowing what I know, I'm thinking if you get a property, well, there's nothing wrong with buying a property that's chunky already, and you can just move in or buy it and find tenants to take over the property, but pretty much you're paying for that. So once I get a property, and then I add value to it, make sure it's being done legally. Meanwhile, so let's just take a number. Let's say that property was purchased for 600,000. The minute you convert it into a legal 3-4 units or 2, let's be conservative, 2 units, and then you rent it out right away, right there, and then you increase the value. And people like you, a mortgage broker like you like that, and your banks really like that. Take a property from 1 unit into 2 legal units that bring in enough income not only to carry the mortgage and all the expenses, but to carry a higher mortgage. So usually once I get a property, it's rented, cash flow is nice and great, I go to you, for example, and say, this is the situation, how can I refinance, how much can I get out of it, because I want to go and get something else.
Okay, so I'm just going to take just a break to remind people that if you have questions that you'd like to ask of either Margaret or Jordan, the lawyer, who's going to be, we'll be talking to a little bit later in the hour, feel free to post any questions you may have. Okay, so we've talked about adding value. We've talked about how it helps to have a person who's good with construction and renovations, who has an eye for that. And I would assume to help keep things under control. I know at one point, was it Sault Ste. Marie had 1 or 2 properties that
I have 3.
3 in Sault Ste. Marie. How did that go? Lessons learned.
Lessons learned. Let's put it that
Tell
way.
us about that.
Lessons learned. That's why right here in Ontario, well, back then when I got this properties, I think it was in 2017 or 2018, I can't remember. And it felt like I was getting really cheap properties, and I got 3 properties, $50,000 each. I paid cash for them outright, and I just thought I'm the smartest person on earth. That was a great deal, awesome deal. So, but then looking at everything that went on, things happened. Tenants management wasn't great. Oh, pretty much there was no tenants management, no property management, and so I wasn't seeing that great and phenomenal cash flow that I expected. So I got those properties thinking that it would be a cash cow. I would just use those properties to start paying off my debt or refinance them, get the equity out and be able to buy more properties. But that didn't happen. And I'm thinking management has a lot to do with it, but I'm thinking it's because of distance. If, for example, they were closer, even 3 hours away, maybe 4 hours away, there would have been a time where I would have driven to that area, that neighborhood, and probably meet locals and try and put things in place. I mean, bigger companies do it, but at that time I was very small. I could have driven there, but like something that's 8 hours away, I can say impossible, but it was just not feasible for me. So in the end, I ended up selling things, taking a loss,
Right.
which I've never done in real estate, but I had to do it in that situation. And what I did was sell, take a loss, and I got something like in the greater Toronto and Hamilton area. And luckily I did, because I remember one of the houses that I used the proceeds to buy, it doubled. Well, I got that property for 400, and I think I was telling you about it. I got it for 430,000, and then I spent $35,000 in it to convert it into 2 units. And earlier this year, a neighbor sold for 900,000, another one sold for almost 800,000, and down the street, I think the next street, someone sold for 850. So pretty much my
This is in Hamilton,
this is in
Right.
Hamilton.
right? So pretty remarkable gains. What's the win? How have your Windsor properties been performing? Are you happy with your Windsor investments?
Yes, but one tip I would give is if you are going something that far, like far away, it could be Windsor, it could be a little bit farther away, east to north, let it be a single family detached, not a multi, because you also have to think about tenants management. At least a single family detached home, just a single family detached home that you get a deal on, you can structure your lease where pretty much you pass on all the responsibilities to the tenant. So they're not coming at 3 in.the morning asking for something and whatnot. So the ones in Windsor, those are single family detached homes. And luckily I didn't have time to convert them into
Right.
multi-units. So I'll just leave them the way they are. But something that's within driving distance where I can manage tenants, because don't forget 2 families or 3 families living under the same roof have to share the front and the backyard.
More issues.
More issues. So you have to have a system in place, which we have now, like my brother Takor, he is the property management. It was a little bit difficult, and we have a legal team, we have paralegals. If we have to serve any N4s or whatnot, any 11s, whatever it is, or 5, and they pretty much.
N4 is what? Eviction or?
Pretty much, well, that's pretty much the start of an eviction. Let's say the first comes and the tenant doesn't pay. Usually I give them until the second. If they don't, then on the third, I contact my paralegal and say, can you serve this person?
On the 3rd of the month?
Yes.
So you move very quickly when people are late.
Well, lesson learned, right? So before I was very sentimental, and by the time you look at it, 4 months down the line, that tenant hasn't paid, and by the time you start the legal process and have to go to court and all that, it's 1 year, 13, 14 months later. So now it's very good if someone isn't paying to serve them maybe on the 2nd of the month, don't even wait on the 3rd, because it is a long process.
Okay, gotcha. So, well, I know, some people say that property owners have been hurting through COVID. They say that the province told tenants, you don't need to pay, crazy things, right? So, I mean, how did you fare through all that?
Well, I think when I came here, your friend said he saw me on TV
Oh,
because.
right. Yes, you were on TV.
Last year when COVID all started, the lockdown all started, well, some officials went on TV and said,
Mm.
don't pay rent. Well, it's true that days later, they went and corrected it and said, okay, if you can't afford food, put food on the table, then we will think about rents later. But
Right.
a lot of people, when they heard it, don't pay rent,
Yeah.
of course, they held rents, they didn't pay rent. And of course, that was very challenging. And it comes back to my point where I'm like, you should be able to drive to the property. So like some people, of course, that first month, a lot of people didn't pay rent. And so some of them, I asked them, what are you going to pay rent? Oh, I didn't know, I just got laid off, something like this. So like in Hamilton and in Windsor, Oshawa just drove there, like Bill and I at one point, we drove, and then Takora and myself, we just drove to the property and say, okay, this is the point. Okay, if you can pay rent, that's fine, we're not gonna go after you, but can you move out in a week on this date?
Mhm.
So at least we can clean up this property and rent it out to somebody who can pay rent. Okay, so, and then so pretty much we just strike a deal with the tenant, and the
Right.
tenant is like, so it's not going on my credit, I'm good, and we're like, yeah, just move out because we need to take care of our
Right.
responsibilities as well. But of course, we did have a couple of tenants, like we had one, for example, this was in Oshawa where they didn't move out. We talked to them, negotiated, they didn't move out. They stayed there, and so they didn't pay March rent. And then, of course, the legal system, everything was shut down and couldn't get an eviction. Well, we filed the eviction, but then we didn't go to courts. We ended up going to court. Long story short, it was 13 months later. That's when they were evicted. And of course, they painted the house with pieces to
Oh.
the left. And I took a video, and that's something I will send to CP24 at some point. But that was an exception, but if not the other tenants, we spoke to two of them who agreed to move out, one a week later, another one 10 days later. And then the others, they made payments plan with us, which was really, really good. So, well, as I said, you should be able to drive there. You can call and email, that's great. But then if you can drive there, talk to them face to face and say, look, we are both human beings.
Right.
Like you can stay here in your parents. Meanwhile, I have to meet my obligations.
Right.
So like those who didn't pay, they started paying on the first of the month, and I made payment arrangement and say, okay, you can just pay me an extra $250 for the next 10 months. So that we
Right.
can clear the arrears.
Right.
So
Okay.
that's what we did.
Talk to us about financing challenges. How did it go? You started off at the bank. At what point did the bank start giving you a hard time, and what did you do?
Well, I'm glad the bank started giving me a hard time because that's when I got to meet you.
Oh, that's true.
Well, like the average person, you're looking for a house, and what happens? You go to your bank, your local bank, and say, okay, this is what we're looking for, this is what we make, right? And that works usually if you're just thinking of buying your one and only property, which is your principal residence, right? But then if you're thinking of getting into investments, like buying multiple properties, trust me, when you go to get that second or third property, your bank is gonna say no. They're gonna come up with everything. And I've learned not to take it personal, because if they don't see it for themselves, they're not gonna see it for you, right?
Right.
Like they look at me and say, a woman, like, how are you gonna manage your property? Like, what do you know? That's what my local banker told me. But then I really wanted the property. And
Yes.
then I really wanted the property because back then, like the cash flow was great. I knew I had to do work on the property, but the cash flow was great. And I just thought, well, back then properties didn't go up this at this speed. It was just going on gradually, probably 3-5% and all that. And for the past 3-4 years, it's been a little bit crazy. It's been a very important increase. But then I just thought, okay, I'll just hold this property for the next 20 years. Not only will my mortgage be paid down, but then I'm gonna have something that might worth probably double. That's what I was thinking. Now you buy something, if you really purchase a good property, probably after 5 years, it will double. Not like back when you got to wait probably 15-20 years. So with the banks, it didn't work. I was only able to get my first rental property with the bank.
Right.
And then it just didn't work. So I went with a B lender. for the second mortgage, for the second rental, and then same thing for the third. And then at one point, I was talking to somebody and they said, oh, I know someone who can help you, or David, and then they gave me your card and I contacted you and you helped me get quite a few properties. And then interest rate is a little bit different, but then when you think about the outcome, like buying a property like that one that I told you I got for 430, and now the neighborhood is going for close to 900,000.
Yeah,
So even though the interest rate you were able to get from me was back then like 1 point higher than what the bank was posting. But seriously, I would take that any day now, knowing what I know, because making an extra $400,000 in 2 years, that's never heard of. So it's very challenging when you want to grow a portfolio to work with a bank. It's very, it's in your best interest to work with a mortgage broker, because then your credit is not pulled. The mortgage broker can pretty much contact all the lenders that I work with and pretty much provide your case, your situation, and then find the lender who can provide something that's in your best interest, and then come and say, this is what I have. And then when you agree with it, that's when your credit is going to be pulled.
right.
And that's what I didn't realize. Back then, I would go to each bank, drive, park in the plaza, and then go to one bank A, and they say no, go to bank B. I would be like, oh, we'll get back to you. Now
Mhm.
first pull my credit. I didn't know, and then go to bank B. A week and a half later, after they pulled my credits, they denied me. Then meanwhile, I didn't even know my credit was taking a hit
Right,
until finally when I got in contact with the mortgage broker, when I really found a lender that wanted to help me, then my credits have really taken a hit. But that's fine. It's lesson learned.
right. Lessons learned.
And something I've learned, it's if even you go with a B lender or with a private lender, the interest rates might not be like the posted rate, but then as long as your numbers work and you take that for like a year or two and you know what you're doing, or you have someone like me or my brother to go on board with you that can just show you how you can really manage your portfolio, your business or that property until you can find an A lender or until you can get a better interest rate,
Yes,
you're golden.
right.
Because that property is going to go up in value. You know what I mean? And then I've noticed that even with these alternate lenders, like the first year you sign with them, then the interest rate is a little bit higher. But once you've established that rapport with them,
Mhm.
and you've been paying on time, there was no defaults or anything, like I deal with, a good lender that we work with. My first interest rate was 5.9 and pretty much 6%. But then when I went to renew, I got a 3.5, which is
Great.
great. So almost half of what I got the first time. So now it's very understandable that the first one gets pretty much your high risk and all that, or maybe you're self-employed, or maybe your income is not that great, or maybe you have quite a few properties like myself, but then you have these lenders out there that are willing to help you. I didn't know that initially, now I know, and seriously, I have no hesitance working with them, no hesitation. I can go and work with a B lender or a C lender.
And you see lots of opportunities out there still, you still believe, because I mean, with prices going up as much as they have, some people might say, oh, maybe it's the bubble's finally eventually gonna burst, interest rates are supposed to go up. I mean, what are your thoughts?
Well, the thing is, they've been talking about this verbal for quite a long time. I remember even when we purchased our principal residence in 2005, at one point, people thought, it's too expensive. It's too expensive. And we thought we were the greatest losers on earth. But right now, that property has tripled in value, way in the millions. So in terms of rental properties, I know when I started investing in 2014, I would drive to a city and the agents would have like 10 properties for me to visit. Sometimes 15, sometimes I would go and spend the whole morning and still have a list of properties to look at. Whereas now it's like you see something, you have to jump on it. You see something and you have to jump on it. So it's a little bit, well, because a lot of people have gotten smarter and they realize that their money probably isn't doing well within the financial system. So probably to just park it in real estate. And some people are buying and holding because they realize that's a very good strategy in terms of building wealth. But I still find a creative way to do, like I was telling you on Sunday that I went to Hamilton, I went to the Niagara area and I looked at a few properties. So you can still find deals out there, but it's just that some of the sellers are kind of a little bit more savvy now because maybe they want to sell to go and buy another property. So they pretty much stick with their asking price because they need that to be able to finance the next home that they're going to get. But then the thing is, where I come in and my experience counts, when I buy it, if even I have to pay the full asking price or go a little bit over, I know exactly what I'm going to do with it. And I know the cash flow is going to cover. It's going to carry, the property is going to carry itself. So it's a little bit more challenging, but with experience, we are pretty much surviving. And I don't know about bubble. I don't want to make predictions because as you've seen, the financial analysts, they've been predicting the the fall of the stock market, like the crash, the real estate market, the crash and all that. 2017, probably it was soft at one point, probably May, June, but then it picked up. So I'm thinking it's good to flip and all that, but if you purchase the property and you want to hold it for a year or two, even if it crashes, I think you're all right. Just make sure the property cash flows. You're all right. If it cash flows, you're perfect. If it keeps going up in value, you can sell or refinance and walk away with a good chunk of money. But let's say you buy today and then tomorrow the market crashes. But it cash flowing, you can rent it out. The rent will be able to help you pay for your mortgage, property tax, insurance, and all that. So you just stay put, just hold on to it until things start picking up. But then when you look at Canada, like immigration, like the borders are closed. All these students aren't coming in yet, like immigrants. I was even telling you my parents that are in the US, they will be coming as landed immigrants. And a lot of people that are just waiting just to get their landed immigrant paper and where they're going to stay. Well, usually people come in the greater Toronto area. So I'm thinking it's still around here. It's still a good place to invest, even though your cash flow might be a little bit lower as what it used to be like 5-10 years ago, but it's still a good way of creating wealth and generational wealth.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So now we have some questions. Let's take a look at some of the questions.
Okay, sure.
We have somebody said for first-time buyers, should the focus be on buying your residence that you live in or an investment property? Pros and cons of each. Any comments on that, Margaret?
Oh, yes, for sure. Well, for some, so knowing what I know now, back then, my first house, like the house that we live in now, we should have looked at a house and when we went to the builder, we should have gotten a layout, like pay that extra 30,000 and we should have gotten like a plan that has a walkout basement. That way, right from the get-go, not only we have the house, we live upstairs and all that, but then you have that tenant in the basement that's pretty much paying your mortgage or at least whatever they're paying, you can contribute, you can save and be able to buy an income property. And then also, like within the house, if I had gotten some of the other plans, for example, I would have been able to even convert my house into 2 units. Well, since I have a big family, so probably the 1 unit is great, but then if I had gotten that walkout basement, that would have been a very good income potential. So yes, if you're a first-time home buyer, yes, when I'm buying a home, probably think about the future. So buy something where you can be able to create a rental income. So something with a side entrance, something with a walkout basement, or something that has the layout where at least you can convert it into 2 units or even 2 families. Because for example, now in the greater Toronto area, homes are so expensive, where you have brothers and sisters or parents and children buying a home together. But if it has the layouts, the nice layouts, they can even just put a wall or something and convert it into 2 self-contained units and everybody has their privacy. So yes, as a first-time home buyer, buy a home where right from the get-go, you're creating a rental income within your home. You have your own privacy and the tenants will have theirs as well, but then you're creating a second income for yourself.
Right. Okay, got it. That's good. Now I'm trying to find the other questions and my mouse is gone from my screen. I can't find my
Oh, I
mouse.
can see it
Where's my-
there.
Yeah, but it's not showing up here. There was some question about something to be, what does it take to convert a single family home with a finished basement, no separate entrance, to convert to a duplex with a separate entrance? Can this be done with an end unit townhouse?
Yes, so one thing I've noticed, so if even you don't have a walkout basement, if, for example, I'm just looking at some of the homes that I have. For example, as soon as you enter the house, if you have the entrance, the stairs going upstairs, if it's right at the entrance, and then you have the stairs going to the main floor into the basement, it's right at the entrance. I think that's the ideal layout for a home that you want to convert into 2 units, because right there and then at the entrance, you will have the entrance door that's going to be the common entrance. And then going up the stairs, you just put a door there, and then that's unit 2. And then on the main floor, you put a door right there at the entrance, that's going to be unit 1. So unit 1 might be the main floor and the basement. Like I have a couple of properties where unit 1 is the main floor and the basement, because the main floor I was able to get 2-bedroom and a kitchen, but then I couldn't put a bathroom. Meanwhile, the basement has a roughing. So the basement, I finished it, put a bathroom, and then put like a den or an office there. So main floor was 2-bedroom plus a den, and then upstairs, put a 2-bedroom there with a kitchen. So yeah, if you have that entrance right at the entrance of the house, that's the perfect situation where you can divide it into units, into 2 units. Upstairs will be 1 unit, and then main floor and basement will be 1 unit.
Okay, got you. Let's see, let's take one more question, and then we're going to bring Jordan into the conversation, our lawyer. We have Vlad, no, that was the question. I think that, I'm not sure, can rate be raised above prescribed Ontario limit? Do you mean the rental rate there, Vladimir? If not,
That's correct. You know, it's the rent control. Essentially, doesn't apply to private properties.
okay. Can rate be raised above prescribed Ontario limit if the unit is a private property, not a rental building with rent control? What are the tricks that can be used to raise rent without upsetting tenants?
Okay, do you want me to say that on TV? Probably we can speak privately about this, but I think there regarding brand new condos and all that, I think there is a difference law. But for example, if you're thinking about properties that are older, like the resale homes, like this year, I think they announced that as of January 1st, because there was a rent freeze, right? Because of COVID, as of January 1st, we can only raise rent. I can't remember if it was 1.2 or 1.8%. I think it's 1.2, which is pretty much nothing. So if a tenant was paying, let me just use an easy number. If a tenant was paying $1,000, now you raise their rent by 1.2, that's just going to be $12. What's $12 going to do? Pretty much your property taxes gone up, everything,
Right.
You know what I mean? So what you can do, like what I do when I just purchase a property, like you have what you call money for keys or something like that. Because I've had units where a 2-bedroom units, probably it's a duplex already before I took possession. This person has been living in it for 15 years, for example, and a 2-bedroom, they're paying $550. Now, so something like that, I would tell them, okay, I can give you 4 months rent or 6 months rent free. I'll go and look for somewhere and I'll pay your first 3 months rent.
Right.
But I just need to do renovations. And once that person agrees to do that, and then I'm like, okay, so it's mutual agreements. They agree to move out, I give them 3 months rent or 6 months rent, or go and find something else, and I pay the first 3 months. We agree on that, and I get my paralegal, and they send them the correct paperwork to sign and say, yes, okay, as of this date, I'll be moving out, and then Margaret is going to give me this set amount of money. And then we agree on that, and when we move out, we go in and then we just give it some facelift. bring it up to value. And then, for example, if it's a 2-bedroom apartment, depending on the market, probably you might get 1650 for it, as opposed to that 550 that that person was paying.
Yeah.
And then probably that 550, it was 550 all inclusive.
Well, rents are, have gone up amazingly too, right? I mean, I heard that there's like multiple bid situations just to get a property for rent, so
Exactly.
pretty incredible. Vladimir, you were asking about interest rates. Michael Evans commented, he's right. I mean, you know, private rates can go anywhere from 6% up to 18, depending on the situation. If you have a specific situation, give me a call. Joel's talking about structure, which will come back to, I think. Let's come back to that, but I'd like to bring Jordan Green, our lawyer, into the conversation. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Jordan is licensed to practice law both in Canada and in the US. He's worked on some very large cases in the US, top of his class experience. He was very good with trial advocacy. He's a very easy to talk to guy. So my thinking was one way to help Margaret and her husband Bill to take things to the next level. One approach would be to explore joint ventures. So we thought, hey, why doesn't Margaret come on the Zoom? She can share with people how she has done what she's done. And if some people want to go and do it themselves, you know, they can, but that maybe there's an opportunity, maybe they would like to joint venture with Margaret and her husband, Bill. And there might be different ways of doing that. I have some ideas on that, but I thought, let's get our lawyer, Jordan, to weigh in on that topic. Jordan, any thoughts, advice, pitfalls? How does one make the best probability for a successful joint venture?
Of course. So thank you for having me today. And it was a great informative talk, I think, for the first 45 minutes that we've had. And I just want to lay out what any lawyer is going to tell you is that nothing I say today is legal advice. It's intended to be a general nature. I am a lawyer. I'm not necessarily your lawyer. And now that I've said that, there's one thing that I noticed. You know, Margaret said that when she started, she wishes that she had bought more earlier and really bought a whole street. And there's an old saying that says, you know, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. So that's always just something to keep in mind. You'd ask about joint ventures. The term that's often thrown around. It has many different meanings in both business and law. It's important to know that essentially they can be structured in any manner. And it's really just important to know what it is that you're hoping to get out of the joint venture agreement and what you hope to gain. So, I mean, if this is something that you were considering, I would say, you know, you should think about that for yourself. And then Margaret would also think about that. And you would be able to easily, you know, take a scratch pad of paper and write down, this is what I want to get. You know, maybe I want to get more experience, or I want to outlay some capital, or I want to be in a market that I'm not used to. I live in London, Ontario, and there's some good properties in Hamilton. I want to rely on Margaret's experience in Hamilton. You know, that might be a valid reason to get together as how we do something. You know, Margaret touched on that as she got going, where things really started to explode is when she put the right team together. So she now has David that's helped with the refinancing. Her brother-in-law was helping with a lot of the contracting work, that he knew the proper ways to do things. It is an immense experience, the right team and the right experience. So again, there's no right answer to anything that we do. There's best answers and things that are more likely to lead to success. And I always want to say, you know, teams are important. Whether it's a joint venture or you decide to do it on your own, it's important you surround yourself with the right people. And joint ventures can be very lucrative for everyone involved.
Okay, that's good feedback. Appreciate that, Jordan. Thank you very much. Margaret, what does a joint venture mean to you? I mean, what would you like to work with somebody?
Oh, yes, for sure. I know when someone hears it, it sounds very like typical finance, like joint venture. Probably might hear that on Wall Street or like those big business people talking about it. But pretty much the small person, small people like us, we can do a joint venture. So what does that mean? Like when I started, it was just me and my husband doing it. And then we had to put down 100% of the down payment, 100% of the lawyer fees, 100% of everything we had to do, the planning, 100%, so everything we had to do. Whereas in a joint venture, if we had partnered with someone, or if someone had partnered with us, if someone wants to partner with us right now, it's like pretty much they come and they say, okay, we want to join you, we want to start doing what you're doing. But then we will come in with half of the proceeds, and then you guys come in with half. But then we will agree on where we're going to invest. And it's a contract. It's almost like a marriage. And probably would be like, okay, probably we should come together and buy a property for this amount, and probably we just flip it.
Mhm.
Or we come together, we buy a property for this amount and probably hold it for 3 years or 5 years. And then at the end, we sell it, and then we share the proceeds 50-50. Or probably we can come together and buy a house. Let's just take a number, buy it for 500,000. We hold it while we do what you're doing already. Make sure it's cash flowing, so at least the cash, the rental income is covering the cost. I mean, the carrying cost and all that. We hold it until it doubles in value. So if we bought it for 100,000 and we notice that after 3-4 years, houses in the area, in the neighborhood are selling for like $1 million, and then we have an appraiser come on board and be like, okay, I think you can sell this for at least $1 million. And we are like, okay, that's the amount we wanted to reach. Either we sell it and we walk away with 50% each, or if you want to buy me out, you can buy me out, or you want to buy whatever it is. So it's an agreement. It's almost like a prenup, I would say. Initially, we come together and we talk, what are we expecting out of this relationship? What do we want? And pretty much we have a lawyer like Jordan, who pretty much will kind of put everything on pen and paper, or pretty much type it, and we all sign. It's like a deal and say, okay, we're going into a business together. Of course, we have to get a corporation so that it's a business. It's not in your name, not in my name. And then we're like, okay, this is the agreement. We have to abide by this. And then at the end of this X amount of years, we sell, and then we walk away.
Okay, that sounds good. So I'd like to share my thoughts with you and with Jordan and some of the people who are attending today. My perception is, Margaret, you're extremely hardworking, not afraid to go do the running, looking at properties, finding the properties. You've got the team in place. You've got TACOR to help you to figure out how to get the most out of a property without spending an arm and a leg, increase the income, make it into a duplex, make it into a triplex, make it into a fourplex, whatever it is, find the right tenants, deal with the tenant. I love the way you deal with your tenants, because I hear so many people, fighting with tenants and problems, and they haven't paid and they ruined my house. I mean, I know you've had your share of not so nice tenants, but sometimes it's just a matter of getting in your car, going, maybe not being so intimidating, but just say, hey, look, I'm just a human being like you, and I've got a mortgage to pay. So what do we do? Like, let's figure out how to get past this. If you can't pay the rent, how do we get you out? What do we have to do? Let's just make it work. And so, so you've got a lot of strength in that area. And we all know that after, you get, the more properties you get, after a while, the banks, they start becoming more difficult. I imagine that there's a lot of people out there who, as I said, they might hear this and be inspired and want to go out and do it themselves, but they may also be people who have regular jobs, they have the income, they may not even realize that they have the capacity to buy a second property, a third property, a fifth property, a 10th property, right?
Right.
And maybe they need somebody like you to help them get, because it is a lot of work and it takes some know-how and they can learn from you too.
Exactly.
So they can get your help to find the right property, to manage that property. And we can leverage their financial capabilities if there's somebody who has some equity in a property, especially if somebody owns a property in Toronto. In the last year alone, it's probably gone up enough that they could pull out $200,000 or $300,000,
Exactly.
right? Especially if they're holding down a job and their income is good. That's idle equity, right? Idle equity. So why not look for an opportunity? That was my thinking. Joel had a question here, which I think is a good one. Joel's an accountant.
Okay, thanks.
He says, you might remember Joel Schuster from the days when people used to be able to meet in person.
Yeah.
Many years ago. What is the structure to use for multiple properties? Do you have a separate company for different groups of properties?
Well, you know what? He asked a question like a typical accountant.
Mhm.
I am thinking about it right now. It's only my last property that's within a corporation. Well, back then I started and going into it, didn't really know what I was doing, but I just thought, okay, this is just a good, it's the best way for me to be able to create wealth and generational wealth. And I'm like, I'm going into it. And so all our properties, so we just started one after the other, and then we didn't even think about the legal and accounting part of it. So all our properties are in our name, and so probably that's why it has come to a point where the banks are like, okay, you own too many properties.
Mhm.
And now we are thinking not probably, we should have put those property number 1, number 2, number 3, and whatnot in a corporation. Because right now, if you got out, so I asked my accountant and I asked my lawyer, how can we transfer them over to a corporation? Well, you can do it, but it's just that you have to pay capital gains tax on them.
Right.
So pretty much, let's say something I purchased in 2014 that I only paid $200,000 for. Now that's worth about $800,000. Can you imagine paying capital gains tax on that? So we are forced to keep those properties in our name, but moving forward, whatever we get, put it in a corporation.
Okay, now you had given me some spreadsheets. Is there something, we have just a few minutes left. So is there something that you really want to show?
Just one couple of things there. I'm not going into detail.
Okay, so let me just grab the okay, so was it in real estate webinar or property analysis for me?
Property analysis.
Okay, so we're just gonna open this little spreadsheet here and hopefully you guys can see it at home.
Yeah. Okay. So
Okay.
I hope.
Maybe I can make it bigger.
Probably right. Right, exactly. All right. So this is let me see it.
Yeah, can you guys see this at home? Jordan, can you see the spreadsheet? Yes.
Yeah, it's coming up great.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect. So I'll just go over this spreadsheet just in a couple of seconds. So this is what I use now. Well, for the past 4 years, I use it. And for example, if someone comes on board with us as a joint partner, we're going to use this spreadsheet. So pretty much, I just you have all the formulas embedded. So I just need to enter the numbers. You see, for example, purchase price. It doesn't necessarily have to be the listing price. But then we enter that number, inspection cost, appraisal cost, title insurance, legal fees at closing, and then the amount of money we're putting as a down payments, the interest rates and all that. And then if you were to go down the spreadsheet, then you will see, for example, how much we think the units will be rented. For example, once we enter all those numbers, then, for example, it will tell us what our monthly income revenue is going to be, whether it's going to be a plus or it's going to be a minus, and it pretty much predicts everything. So then we have the opportunity of playing with the numbers. Then it's going to determine how much we offer for that property or how much we spend in renovation. And probably if we do need to spend that amount of money in renovation and all that, and then probably the rents, we can play with it a little bit and say, okay, instead of renting it for 1,500, can we get 1,800, for example? So pretty much it's like predictive analysis. And then we can just play with the spreadsheet before even putting the offer. And then once we put in the offer and just play with it to pretty much determine what our cash flow is going to be. So, yeah.
Okay, all right, very good. Okay, so if you're watching this and you would like to explore the idea of working with Margaret to do a joint venture, I'm just going to display our contact. Margaret, I didn't put your where is it here? Share screen. I didn't put your, I don't know if you want to have people calling you for this or not. Sorry, but if they can call me or they can call you. It's kind of coming up eventually
You can
here.
call or text me, whatever.
Okay, so fine. So do you want to mention your, I don't know, it's not coming up now. There it is. Okay, there's our contact info. So Margaret, what is your phone number again, please?
647
647
968
968
1403.
1403. You can
Okay.
take a snapshot of what you see on the screen and I'll type Margaret's number in
Yeah,
again
so you can call or text me.
into the
and-
comments. And if you would like to speak with Jordan about a real estate matter, he also does, I believe you do some corporate law as well, Jordan. And what else? There was another kind of law that you,
So I say we do, it's a solicitor practice. So I've now been practicing in the same office for about 10 years now. So it's the things that you would need to keep you out of court.
okay, how does,
Real estate, wills and estates, and corporate work, and the intertwining of the three.
did you get your first inquiry already there?
Yeah.
Said Bill, or the kids aren't going to sleep? No, it was a legitimate inquiry. We have our first joint venture already. We'll send you the papers for sign off. Tell me your number again. I'm gonna type it in here for people. 647
968
968
1403.
1403. Okay, so that's Margaret's phone number. And if you need assistance with a mortgage, give me a call. First-time buyers, move-up buyers, purchase, refinance, first, second mortgage, private, self-employed, credit issue, seniors, multiple properties, whatever the situation, give me a shout. And I think that's about it. So thank you all very much for joining. Margaret, thank you very much
Thank
for
you,
being
David.
here today. Jordan, thanks a lot for your input. Very much appreciated as always. And we'll see you next time. We have an event happening on December the 1st, Wednesday, December the 1st, with Jerry Hogenhout, our resident accountant and good friend. And he's going to be talking about real estate and taxes, good information for real estate agents if you don't have your personal real estate corporation set up yet. And also if you're just an investor or you have questions, that'll be on December the 1st. And we're going to have a live audience. So if you feel like coming up to Wasaga Beach, we're going to be at Boston Pizza. We're going to be able to have probably up to 15 or 20 people there. If you want to join us, we'd love to have you. So watch out for information about that. And we will see you next time. Thanks, Huddle Share Space, for the use of the great facility here today. My good friend Shiva, business partner, for setting it up. Our camera crew, thanks guys, and we'll see you all next time. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye. Hey, Mike,
Thank you very much.
good to see you. Good night.
Jordan, good to see you.
Take care, everybody. See ya.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
coming.
Thanks.